Hello, my friend. I am so excited to dive into this week's podcast episode for you on this week's astrology. Oh my goodness. This is going to be a huge week for you. We have Mercury Retrograde beginning in Leo this week. We also have a karmic cycle ending for you this week. So in this week's episode, I'll be diving deep into the transits of this week for you. I will also be sharing a deep dive into the astrology of limerence and being obsessed over a specific person. I will then end off this podcast episode with a tarot reading of what energy to embrace, what energy to let go of. So let's just dive right into it. Now, starting off with the beginning of this week, there's not too many intense transits happening, which is great. You could still be feeling the full moon in Capricorn energy. So if you haven't watched last week's episode, go watch that episode because that's going to give you a good overview of more so the energy you're going to be feeling this week and just what cycle is ending for you with that chapter. Now let's start with July 18th. Mercury goes retrograde in the sign of Leo, and I want to dive into what Mercury retrogrades mean, what you could expect with this retrograde. I will be posting your Mercury retrograde horoscopes on my VIP membership. I'll leave a link to that once that's released. Yet, Mercury retrogrades are honestly very feared in the community, in society. I think it's really interesting that Mercury retrogrades are so well known in terms of our communities, in terms of social media, in terms of people who aren't even that interested in astrology. And this is because Mercury, the planet, is the planet of thinking and communication. So when it goes retrograde, I will say it's more so an optical illusion of it going backwards in the sky. It is not actually going backwards in the sky. I want to make that clear. This is an optical illusion based on our perspective from Earth and what we see. This gives us a really good context as to what a Mercury retrograde can mean. So, for example, this could look like a lot of miscommunication, technical issues. You could feel like you're being clear or you're getting your point across, but someone else is seeing something different. This is a really good example to just take note of. A lot of the times, yes, there are a lot of situations where someone from your past can come back. And this could also look like an ex reaching back out. This is what Mercury retrogrades are famous for. Yet, I want you to see the perspective that a Mercury retrograde can be very, very helpful, even though it can be frustrating, even though it can be annoying. You could feel delayed at work. You could feel like it's harder to get things done. You could then feel like there's a lot of miscommunication that doesn't allow you to express yourself in the way that you wish you did. Now, Mercury retrogrades are still amazing times for us to deeply reflect on the past, to soak in nostalgia, to really ground ourselves. And it cannot feel super, super grounding, yet it really helps us understand why we have to take a step back before walking 2 steps forward. That's just one example, but oftentimes this is going to be a really, really good time for you to edit previous projects that you haven't touched in quite a while. This is a great time to reach out to an old friend and catch up. This is a great time to look at the past in a different way. Now, this Mercury retrograde beginning on July 18th in the sign of Leo is going to be a bit messy. It's going to be a bit dramatic in the sign of Leo. Do I think this is a harder Mercury retrograde? Not really. I do think this Mercury retrograde actually is quite lovely in the sense of creativity and self-expression. Yes, you could still hear from someone from your past. Yes, it can get a little bit messy, a little bit drama-filled. So stay tuned for your Mercury retrograde horoscopes because I'll dive deeper into that based on your rising and sun sign. Now, the themes that are really present with a Mercury retrograde in Leo will be really centered around your creativity, your self-expression, how you see yourself and your identity. With this Mercury retrograde in Leo, it's a coming home to yourself. How are you treating yourself? What are the words you're sharing with yourself? What have you been doing to self-sabotage? And in what ways can you reframe your perspective of what's possible for you? What can you actually do to take back your power? I will say, with this being in the sign of Leo, this is a bit more passionate, this is more creative, and it's also a time for you to really reflect on what your inner child really needs right now. May this be more nostalgic movies that you watch. May this be hanging out with old friends and just celebrating with them in terms of how far you've come. May this be really going back and realizing how much you have changed and grown. And would your childhood self be proud of yourself? What does this look like? So I honestly, as a Leo, think this is a really lovely Mercury retrograde. Yes, we do have some intense transits that can still be a bit tricky. Yes, things can still be messy. The dark side of this energy that I want you to be aware of is people's egos can flare up. People could just feel a little bit more selfish, a bit more insensitive. This is important to note. So this isn't for everyone. This is for anyone who might not be aware of this transit. Yet the dark side of Mercury in Leo is being very self-centered, having so much focus on yourself that you're kind of ignoring where that other person is coming from. You might be ignoring, okay, yes, I want to be confident, and there can be some insecurities that do come up. I do want to point that out with this transit, especially with a retrograde in the sign of Leo. Yet what's really good to take note of is this is actually a really, really helpful transit for you to come back home to yourself, to realize, okay, how can I take care of myself in a better way? How can I be more loving to myself? How can I encourage myself? This is the transit to hype yourself up. I will say that this is the transit to really, really hype yourself up in the best possible way. That is going to be a great use of this transit. Yet, if you do deal with some sticky situations with people, if people's egos flare up, some people could be a bit more passive aggressive, especially while we're still in Cancer season until the 22nd. I will point that out. People could be a bit more moody from the 18th to the 22nd. People could feel a little bit more on edge. Keep this in mind. Yet a Mercury retrograde in Leo, after Leo season begins on the 22nd, I do feel like that's going to be such a beautiful, beautiful, nostalgic time. I do feel like we might get some good throwback music during that time, or just feel like we're in a place where we can reminisce about things that have happened to us that really brought us more joy and happiness in our childhoods. Now, I will say we did start the Mercury retrograde shadow period on June 30th of this year. So whatever happened to you from June 30th to July 17th, certain themes are going to come up for you again. Things are going to come up in terms of reassessment. This is big. So if there were some issues with certain people, like certain friends or a relationship or a work situation, you could revisit this same issue and project. I want to point that out. Now, we did have a Mercury retrograde in Leo happen last year. So I want you to go check back to see what were the themes for you that came up for you during that time. So go check back to see what was happening for you around August 5th to August 28th, 2024. Specifically, more so August 15th to the 28th. because first Mercury was retrograde in the sign of Virgo, it then retrograded back into the sign of Leo, so specifically August 15th to the 28th. See what were the major themes for you? Who were the major players for you at that time? What was coming up? What issues were coming up? Because those issues might be revisited during this time, yet you have a different perspective. Now, Mercury retrograde doesn't end until August 11th, 2025, so keep this in mind. This is going to be a little bit more of a messy summer, still fun summer, still very creative summer, yet honestly a bit of a messy summer. So on the same day, on July 18th, we have Mercury in Leo sextile to Venus in Gemini. This is super sweet. This is super lovely. So even though you could have a few technical difficulties, some delays, some miscommunication, I do see this as you having a lot of support by your friends. This looks very, very nourishing in terms of maybe having some really good conversations with friends, just feeling more valued and appreciated, feeling more seen. You could just feel as though you're talking to some friends and maybe you're feeling more confident in terms of how you're seeing yourself because of how your friends are showing up for you and the conversations you're having. This honestly looks like a great time to call up an old friend and ask them to catch up, to flip through your old yearbooks with a friend from high school or from your junior high or elementary school. That could be super, super sweet. This could also just look like having a really good conversation with someone you're dating, and maybe you're just feeling very, very taken care of during this time. Now, the next day on July 19th, we have the Sun in Cancer square Chiron in Aries. This is a bit of a sensitive day. I'm going to give you a heads up. The 19th is a bit of a sensitive day where you could just feel as though some old wounds for you around your sense of worthiness are coming up for you based on a conversation you're having. This could look like having a conversation with your family member at this time, or really understanding something from your past when it comes to how you were raised and how you didn't feel like a certain need was met for you. This is a major theme for this day. So potential triggers can come up for you this day, yet ultimately it's a reminder that this is coming up for you to heal. This could feel like you're a bit more emotional, you need to cry it out if something does come up for you, and it could just feel like you're not being seen in the way that you would like on this day. Yet I do think this is a good opportunity for you to share your voice, to share this with someone in a more intimate setting and share what you're going through with someone you really trust. And when we talk about the unmet needs we have as children, I want you to just journal this out if you have time and just see what comes up for you. And remind yourself you're able to give that to yourself. Yes, maybe it's not exactly the same as it would be if it was from a parent or a partner, but whatever comes up for you, remind yourself you can share that with yourself. May this be, maybe you didn't feel seen as a kid. Maybe that's why you connect with astrology and you're watching this video, and that in itself is a gift you're giving to yourself. That is a precious, precious gift. Now, another way you could do this is maybe you didn't get the words of affirmation that you wish you received as a kid. How can you tell yourself that you're proud of yourself? How can you tell yourself that you love yourself, that you're there for yourself? Remind yourself of this. There's so much power in our words. Now, on July 20th, this is also a very pivotal day. And I think it's really good to note that because Mercury retrograde begins on the 18th, and this is happening on the 20th, there's a lot from the past that we're going to purge. This is because Mars in Virgo is conjunct the South Node in Virgo. This is a deep, deep karmic purge of your past, especially when it comes to what stories are you telling yourself? What is the language you're using about yourself? This is a week where things can really dramatically change for you. You could potentially meet someone from your past and realize, actually, I don't want to fall into the same relationship cycle that I used to get into with them. Maybe this is an old friend that you felt like they took advantage of you in some way, and you're choosing something different now. You see the pattern, you see the cycle, and this day on the 20th is you choosing different. Remind yourself of this. You have so much more power than you think. I want you to remind yourself of this so much. Yes, there's certain things that are out of our control, but how can you focus on your own internal power? How can you focus on what is going right in your life right now? And how can you take back your power and realize, actually, I'm going to speak to myself in a kinder way. I'm not going to speak any ill words about myself. This makes me think of a story where I was at a friend's party and we actually crashed this party. I'm not going to lie. We crashed this random condo party in her condo, and it was a very interesting time. They just invited us in, so we're like, okay, sure, why not? And we were chatting with some new friends, and essentially one of them said something about me being my own boss. And I am very grateful that I am my own boss. But she said something in regards to me being bad to myself, or me disrespecting myself in some way. I don't know exactly what she said. She was like, oh, she's such an awful person or something. And I was like, no. And I really stood up for myself in that moment. That was like a huge pivotal moment for me to be like, no, actually, I love my boss. Actually, I love that I get to work for myself. Actually, yes, sometimes I do make sacrifices working for myself. Yet it's so worth it to me because my work is so rewarding to me. I get to really help people learn more about themselves, learn about the energy of the universe, and use it to their advantage in their life, to help them feel seen, to help them feel supported, to help them see the bigger perspective on life and the world. And she was thrown back a little bit, yet I was so proud of myself in that moment to stand up to myself, because I don't think I would have done that a few years ago. So on this day, on July 20th, this is a pivotal time for you to see, where have you been critical of yourself? Have you been pushing yourself down in any way? And how can you lend a hand to yourself and realize, actually, I'm doing a great job. Actually, I'm proud of myself for the progress I'm making. The dark side of Mars in Virgo is judgment. It's criticality. It's overthinking situations. This honestly is such a good day to do a meditation, do some breath work, do some EFT tapping, do something to really clear your energy, because that's going to help you so much moving forward. Yet, this is a pivotal day for you, even if you might not see it in the 3D right now. But this is a pivotal day for you where you could make a mindset shift around, actually, I'm ending this cycle for myself. I no longer want to be self-sacrificing. This is especially true with the South Node in Virgo. The South Node in Virgo has us stuck in perfectionism, in criticality, in judgment. That is the more darker traits of the South Node in Virgo. Yet, if you're so consumed about it has to be perfect or else I won't receive love, it has to be perfect or else I'm doing something wrong. I think my biggest thing is I keep thinking I'm doing something wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm doing all the right things. How can you remind yourself of that? I'm doing all the right things. I'm proud of myself for my progress. I'm taking small steps every day for my goals, whatever that looks like to you. Yet, this is a day where you are cutting things off, okay? Are you people pleasing in any way because you want to help someone and overgive? Virgo tends to want to serve in this really beautiful way, yet it can be to the detriment of that person. And I don't think that's a good way to approach a situation. It's reminding yourself, actually, I am going to set proper boundaries when I need to, and I'm going to remind myself of how it's actually beneficial for me to set those boundaries with a certain person. And this is the time for you to check wherever Virgo is in your chart, because you are ending this chapter in that area of life for you. This is huge for you. So those are the major transits of this week. I'll be posting your Mercury Retrograde horoscopes on my VIP Substack membership very soon, so stay tuned for those. I'll leave a link to those once those are released. And if you made it this far in the video, please comment puppies, just so that I know that you've made it this far. And if you're enjoying this, please like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube, because that really does help me out and it helps me make more content for you. Also, I've just been really enjoying you saying random words on my videos, because that has been quite hilarious, I will say, just to look back and be like, oh, this person did make it this far, which is amazing. So you're a real one. Thank you. Now, in this week's episode, I want to dive into limerence and missing a specific person, what this kind of looks like, but also what this looks like in your birth chart, how we can talk through this. If you feel like you're missing and are nostalgic for someone from your past, how can you work through this? How can you feel as though actually when is a good time to reach out to someone and when isn't? When is it not actually serving me? And to quickly answer that question before I dive into the astrology of this, I will say, when we're thinking about people from our past, I want you to ask yourself if you have certain expectations of how someone's going to act if you reach out. I think that's a huge, huge thing to really consider, because if you do not have expectations of how you want them to respond or act, that is a better time to reach out. If you are reaching out and you expect them to do a certain thing, you expect them to be a certain way, this is a good point to make during a Mercury retrograde, because honestly, we can't control what other people do. We can, of course, control what we do, how we perceive ourselves, how we perceive the other person, yes, in terms of what we think of them. Yet, when it comes down to it, it's thinking about, is it worth your energy? Is it worth your time? And this can be really hard if you still love someone. This could be really, really hard if you just want to reconnect with someone. And I think what I've learned after my Saturn return is detachment can really, really save you. Detachment is so, so beneficial in this regard. So I know this is easier said than done. I know this can be a bit trickier for people. I'm going to share what has helped me. Yet, going into limerence, I'm going to share the definition that I found of limerence, and hopefully it resonates with you. Not everyone will experience limerence, yet the definition I found was limerence is a state of involuntary obsession with another person. The experience of limerence is different from love or lust, in that it's based on the uncertainty that that person you desires you, called the limerent object in literature. So there's this uncertainty if that person actually feels the same way as you. So when we think of obsession in our birth charts, this goes down to Pluto. So Pluto is the planet of transformation, death, rebirth, but also obsession, but also survival. it's very interesting that obsession and survival is linked to Pluto and they go together, because I think this is a really, really good thing to dive into with this energy. If you have certain placements that aspect Pluto, this is something I dive into in my Astrology Foundations course, Seen Secrets. I'll leave a link to that down below if you want to learn astrology from me and dive into the dark side and also the strengths of each planet, all the good aspects of each planet and signs, because that's going to give you so much info. I'll leave a link to that if you're interested, if you're feeling called to study astrology in depth. Yet, when we think of Pluto, this is interesting. You would not only look at how different planets are aspecting Pluto in your birth chart, but you would check to see what the ruler of your partnership sector, the ruler of your 7th house, is doing in the transits and how it aspects Pluto. That's going to give you some really good information on, are you currently trapped in a cycle of obsession? Are you currently trapped in this opportunity to change something? So when we hyperfocus, we could want a certain outcome. We could want to have some validation that another person loves us in the same way. And I think it's interesting with the transits this week, because I go back to why this could be happening for you. I'm going to share my own personal experience on this too, just in case it helps you in this regard. Yet, when we think of this, when we're obsessing over another person, yes, look at Pluto, look at the 7th house ruler, look at, the dignity of that ruler, because that's going to share more information on what is currently happening and why it's happening. For myself, it's been me recognizing in my past, oh, yes, I did miss that person. And to be quite honest and a bit embarrassed, it took me quite a few years to really let go of an ex. And for myself, it was because I felt like I wasn't going to receive the same kind of love. I felt like, okay, this was my chance. This was my opportunity. Yet it's interesting when I look at my chart. I have a lot of aspects to Pluto in my birth chart. I'm very, very obsessive sometimes. So I'm really, really happy I knew that about myself so that I wouldn't get into some hard substances or certain things, because it can be hard. You would look at a lot of Pluto aspects for that. Yet when I was reflecting on this, it was me realizing, oh, I feel like this was my opportunity for that kind of love. And I was in a scarcity mindset. Pluto can bring up scarcity because, it is the planet of survival. So when we look at this, for me, I thought, oh, I'm never going to receive this love again. Oh, why can't I have this? When am I going to have this again? So I would obsess over this and I would get myself into these cycles, and that was very, very unhealthy for me. Yet it was something that I had to remind myself that really helped me throughout this process and journey. First off, it's reminding yourself there's always other people, right? We have an abundance of people on this earth. It's more so your perspective on what is possible for you. So for me, hyper-focusing that, oh my God, I'm never going to receive this love again from this romantic partner, was actually me feeling that way when my dad passed away, because my dad made me feel very, very seen. My dad was very supportive. My dad was very encouraging. So after his death, I had this lack of that validation that I really loved, that I really missed. So I felt this fear that I would never experience again. So when I found that in a romantic partner, certain aspects of it, not all of it. When I found that in a romantic partner, I was trying to latch onto it. I was trying to say, it has to be this person, right? And I think we also have to keep in mind there can also be the negative aspect of astrology too. Astrology is a human-made tool. So again, there's always going to be something to kind of take note of and be aware of, right? So, in my head, I loved astrology. It was giving me so much perspective on why a certain relationship happened for me. Yet for me, I was like, oh, we're so compatible. We have so much going for us in our synastry charts and our composite chart. Yet for myself, I remember thinking, actually, astrology showed me why that relationship had to happen. And that was the best blessing. That was me understanding, actually, you're breaking a relationship pattern right now. You're breaking a pattern when it comes to the types of partners you choose, thinking one person's going to make you happy and that's it. You're breaking this cycle. And yes, it's good to have love. Yes, you could have that love, but how can you give that to yourself? How can you see that you're already loved by friends, by the world around you? How can you see that you're abundant around whatever that is in your life? May that be just having a roof over your head. May that be your safety. May that be what's around you. And that in itself is love. There's so many different aspects to love. So for me, it did take me some time to fully grieve and mourn a breakup, which we don't really talk about. We do say, like, yes, you have to heal after a breakup. Yet grieving and mourning is more so you saying goodbye to that version of yourself that believed something different. That version of yourself, whoever you were with that partner, believed something in terms of what was possible for you for that future with that person. So I had to grieve the future that I thought I was going to have with that person. In the end, yes, I did miss that person, but I really, really missed the ability to have fun in my everyday life. I think my exes really made it fun for me to take film photos with them or to just share the same sense of humor with them. And when I started to realize, okay, what am I missing in terms of what I had with my exes and what I'm missing with my current friendships, with my relationship to myself, that is when I took those aspects and I started to focus on how I could give it to myself or how I could find that in a friendship. So I had friends where I would take photos with them, and that was so soul nourishing. I also have friends where it's easier for me to be funny around them. I am a funny person, but I feel like a lot of my work, you don't really get to see it because it's not my first thing that comes to mind. And it's just interesting in terms of understanding how I could show that to myself, how I can be that way and show a different side of myself to my friendships. And that in itself gave me so much love. It gave me so much happiness. So it is a process. I also really, really highly recommend overnight affirmations if you're currently trying to let go of an ex, if you're currently trying to say goodbye to a certain relationship. I have free overnight affirmations you can use. You play them overnight to rewire your subconscious mind to let go of what is holding you back. I think this is such a good thing to do with Mars conjunct the South Node in Virgo. So I'll leave a link to those if you're interested, if you just want to feel more peace, if you just want to feel this release and just feel lighter about moving forward. Now, if you really want to dive deeper into your relationship patterns, your career patterns, and your family patterns, and how they're all connected, why this is important in your birth chart, and how this can help you attract more aligned connections into your life, how this could help you attract more aligned clients into your life, if you have a business, or just understand what to focus on to really get to the job that you love in your career. You can go check out my Astrology Foundations course, Scene Secrets. I am super, super excited to relaunch this. Go grab it while it's still on sale for a limited time. And I am hosting a live Q&A for this. If you want me to pull up your birth chart, if you want help in interpreting charts and really understanding the art of giving birth charts. Past students are getting amazing, amazing results from this course. They're getting more confident in reading their own birth chart. They're so happy they have the skill of astrology for the rest of their life. You can come back to the course. This is not just a one-year course. This is a course you can have for the rest of your life that you can refer back to when anything happens for you, so that you always have this toolbox of knowledge, of understanding the depth of reading birth charts, reading your own chart, and just taking back control of your life. My past clients have used astrology to leave abusive relationships, to get into more aligned relationships. After reading with me, they found more amazing connections. They've gotten married to their dream partners. They've earned more money in their business. I have one client who got over 50K more in her business just by using her birth chart and what we discussed in a session together. I have so many clients who just felt more aligned and were ready to launch their own astrology practices after having just one birth chart reading with me. I've have clients who also just built more of a solid foundation in their business by understanding what worked in their birth chart and what to really focus on to really optimize your day-to-day life, especially with the 6th house and your 6th house ruler. There have been so many mind-blowing stories that I've gotten from clients over the years, as well as students who have said my courses are life-changing. If you're feeling called to dive deeper into the secrets of your birth chart, I'll leave a link to that down below. Now let's dive into your tarot reading for this week. The first card out is the 3 of Cups, which I love. Oh my goodness. Honestly, such a good card to start off this Mercury Retrograde in Leo. This is a card of celebration. So this week, you could be celebrating with some friends. You could just be in a place where you want to enjoy life. You go to a party. You could just meet up with friends and reflect and just be in a nostalgic state. Yet, this is a card to show you that you're being supported right now. Lean on the friendships you have and really also prioritize the friends that are showing up for you. I'm really hearing that message. Try not to scatter your energy so much so to friends that aren't showing the same type of love and respect to you. Really prioritize the friends that are showing up for you, that want to celebrate with you, that are hyping you up, that are encouraging you in your business, that are there for you. Really focus on those friends. The next card out is the Tower card. So something is happening this week where you could feel like the rug has been pulled out under you. This feels like there has been something that either you've been avoiding, or there's something here where you thought was more stable and grounded and you're realizing, actually, this isn't it. Actually, I need to start over. This makes a lot of sense with the Mercury retrograde. We're reflecting back on past projects. We're reflecting back on past themes for us. So moving forward, the Tower is actually helpful. I know everyone is quite afraid of the Tower card, yet it actually is very, very helpful because this is a very clear sign and indication that you have to change something right now. This is big. Okay, so yes, this is going to feel uncomfortable. Yes, this isn't something you wanted to hear. This can feel hard. This can feel earth-shattering. Yet it is going to help you with understanding, okay, what can I do now to rebuild myself up? What can I do now to build a more solid foundation for myself? May that be a more aligned career. May that be a relationship pattern that you need to change. May that be setting more boundaries with a family member. Whatever that looks like for you, this is a card where you're taking a step back and you're realizing, okay, I need to clear the slate. I need to do things differently. This is the time. The next card out is the Two of Swords. So this feels, again, quite uncomfortable. You could feel like you're in two places at once. You could feel like it's hard for you to make a decision. Maybe something is collapsing around you with the Tower card, and you're still not sure about how to approach things moving forward. This looks like, okay, maybe I am self-sabotaging in certain ways. And I say this because she has the blindfold on in the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So this is the time to really listen to your intuition, of what your intuition is telling you to do. Mercury retrogrades want us to slow down, right? So this isn't the time to push forward, to do more work. Yes, it's good to edit things. Yes, it's really good to take some time to refine things, but this isn't the time to really rush the process. The Two of Swords is asking you, okay, how is your indecision self-sabotage? Why is it hard for you to decide? Take some time for yourself and see, what stories are you telling yourself? What have you been doubting in yourself? What are the limiting beliefs that are coming up for you? I think this is huge with Mars conjunct the South Node this week as well. Yet, this is the time where you're trying to be aware of what's coming up for you so that you can change the narrative, so that you can rewrite your story and realize, actually, I need to take back my power now. Actually, I'm safer than I think. Actually, I rather feel the uncomfortable feelings and move forward than just be at ease with bare minimum. Remind yourself of that. Our block this week is the Page of Cups. So you could feel like, ooh, if you're dating someone new, maybe they're not showing you as much affection as you would like. Maybe they're just giving you the bare minimum or less than the bare minimum. You could still feel like, okay, this person's sweet. Okay, this is quite lovely in this sense, but you're wanting someone to show up for you more. Remind yourself you have to show up for yourself first. And yes, it can be hard. It doesn't necessarily relate to every single person, right? Sometimes we want to just do the inner work first, and we expect everyone else to follow suit. And yes, that's a part of it. But another part of it is reminding ourselves that we have to choose when to fight the battle. We have to choose, okay, this is someone I want to explore things with. We have to choose what feels right in our gut, right? So remind yourself of this. You still have choices. You still have options. And sometimes it's worth fighting for someone. It is. And sometimes it's not. I asked what would help us through this process, and you got the Nine of Pentacles. So the more you give to yourself, the more you're stable and secure on your own, the better things are going to be when someone else shows up for you. You're going to appreciate it more. You also are going to see, okay, no matter what, I'm okay. I'm safe. No matter what happens with this person, no matter what happens with this friend, no matter what happens with this job, client, whatever it is, reminding yourself you're safe, reminding yourself you've already accomplished so much. It's good to hype yourself up. It's good to celebrate your wins. It's good to stand in your power of what you've already accomplished. This is big for you. The Oracle cards I pulled for you are give it the time it needs. So I know we want things right away. This Mercury retrograde, things might take a bit longer than you expect, and I'm sorry to say that. You also got don't take it all too seriously. So maybe you're attaching to a certain outcome or situation. Remind yourself it doesn't have to be so serious. Sometimes you could just have fun, right? Sometimes I need to remind myself of that. So remind yourself of this. And then you also got being yourself is sacred, which is the perfect way to end off this Mercury retrograde tarot reading. reminding yourself there's no one else like you. You're important. You matter. Remind yourself of this. And how can you just celebrate yourself? That is going to help so much in terms of having a ripple effect into your friendships, into your community, into society. The more self-love you have, the better it is for everyone around you. Remind yourself of this. So I really hope this helped, friend. Let me know in the comments if this resonated with you, how you're feeling this week with this week's energy. If you would like to dive into your birth chart together and really learn astrology from me, I'll leave a link to my Astrology Foundations course, Scene Secrets. Get it while it's still on sale. Again, it's only for a limited time. Once August starts, no one else will be able to access it. Please message me if you have any questions, and just remember the universe has your back. And with peace and love, take care.